The Library of Alexandria was destroyed in one catastrophic fire. Thousands of irreplaceable scrolls vanished. Ancient knowledge disappeared overnight. Civilization was supposedly set back by centuries. It is one of history's most famous tragedies. It is also almost certainly the wrong story. The library did burn. Books were destroyed. Buildings were damaged. But no single fire appears to have wiped out the entire institution. In fact, the strangest part of the story is this. The Library of Alexandria seems to survive nearly every event said to have destroyed it. So what actually killed it? The real culprit may not have needed a match. Alexandria was founded in Egypt by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE. After his death, Egypt was ruled by the Ptolemies. They wanted Alexandria to become the intellectual centre of the ancient world. So they created the Museion. It was not a museum in the modern sense. It was closer to a royal research institute. Scholars studied mathematics, medicine, astronomy, geography, and literature. The library formed part of that institution. Its goal was ambitious. Collect important texts. Copy them, organise them, study them. Ancient writers claimed the collection held hundreds of thousands of scrolls. That may be exaggerated. We do not know its exact size. We do not even know whether all its texts were kept in one place. That matters. Because the popular myth imagines one enormous building containing all ancient knowledge. The real library was probably a network of collections connected to a wider institution, which makes one giant destruction far less likely. And that brings us to the first suspect. In 48 BCE, Julius Caesar became trapped in Alexandria during a civil war involving Cleopatra and her brother. Enemy forces controlled the harbour, so Caesar's men set ships on fire. The flames spread. Books burned. That much is true. But which books? Some later writers claimed the Great Library itself was destroyed. Others described warehouses near the harbour burning with books inside them. Those scrolls may have belonged to the library. They may have been copies waiting for transport, or they may have belonged to merchants. We cannot know for certain. But there is one major problem with blaming Caesar for ending the library. It still appears to have existed afterward. Decades later, the geographer Strabo described the Museion as an active scholarly institution. People were still studying in Alexandria. Officials were still connected to it. So Caesar probably destroyed books. He may even have damaged part of the collection. But the Library of Alexandria survives its most famous destruction, which means Caesar cannot be the whole answer. By the 4th century CE, Alexandria was divided by religious conflict. Christianity had become increasingly powerful. Pagan temples were attacked. One of the most important was the Serapeum. It was a vast temple dedicated to the god Serapis. Ancient writers also connected it to a smaller collection, sometimes called the Daughter Library. In 391 CE, the Serapeum was destroyed under Christian authority. Statues were smashed, the temple was dismantled, and later retellings turned this into the final destruction of the Great Library. But the evidence is much weaker than the story. We do not know how many books were still stored there. We do not know what the collection contained, and we do not know whether it preserved the surviving heart of the original library. Books may have been lost, but there is no clear proof that the Serapeum still held a vast library in 391. The Serapeum was destroyed. Calling that the death of the Great Library means turning a possibility into a fact. So once again, the institution refuses to give us a clean ending. The final suspect arrives more than 2 centuries later. In 642 CE, Arab forces captured Alexandria. A famous story claims they found the library still standing. The general supposedly asked Caliph Umar what to do with the books. According to the story, Umar replied that if they agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary. If they disagreed with it, they were dangerous. Either way, they should be burned. The scrolls were supposedly used to heat the city's bathhouses for months. It is dramatic. It has a villain. It has a memorable quote. It is also almost certainly false. The story does not appear until centuries after the Conquest. Earlier accounts of Alexandria's capture do not mention it. And by the 7th century, the original Great Library had probably been gone for generations. This is the cleanest version of the myth. It is also the least reliable. So if Caesar did not destroy it, the Serapeum may not have destroyed it, and the Arab conquest story is probably fiction, what did? The answer is less dramatic than fire. The Library of Alexandria was not just a building, it was a system. It needed money. It needed scholars. It needed scribes. It needed political protection. And it needed people constantly copying fragile texts before they decayed. Papyrus does not last forever. A scroll that is not recopied eventually disappears. A library can lose thousands of works without a single flame. The decline may have started under the Ptolemies themselves. Around 145 BCE, scholars were expelled from Alexandria during a political struggle. That mattered. A library without experts is only storage. Then Roman rule changed how the institution was supported. Alexandria remained important, but it no longer had the same royal backing. The city was repeatedly damaged by war. In the 3rd century CE, fighting devastated the royal quarter where the original library was probably located. Buildings may have been destroyed. Collections may have been scattered. Scholars moved elsewhere. Texts stopped being copied. The library did not need one final fire. It could disappear piece by piece. This is where the myth grows another layer. People often claim the library contained inventions centuries ahead of their time. Steam power, electricity, advanced medicine, blueprints that could have transformed civilization. Some remarkable works were certainly lost. There are plays, histories and scientific texts from the ancient world that no longer survive. But Alexandria did not contain every copy of every important work. Other libraries existed. Private collections existed. Texts travelled. Many works disappeared because people stopped copying them, not because one building burned. The loss was real. The idea that one fire erased an ancient industrial revolution is not. The Library of Alexandria burned, probably more than once. Caesar's fire destroyed books. Later wars damaged the city. The Serapeum was destroyed. Collections were scattered and lost. But no single blaze appears to have erased the greatest library of the ancient world. No single villain killed it. It was weakened by politics, starved of support, damaged by war, emptied of scholars, and slowly erased when old texts stopped being copied. The myth survives because one enormous fire is easy to understand. It gives us one night to mourn, one person to blame, one moment when history could have been saved. The truth is more uncomfortable. Knowledge rarely disappears all at once. It disappears when institutions weaken, when specialists leave, when funding ends, when one generation assumes the next will preserve what it no longer protects. The Library of Alexandria did burn, but fire was not what truly destroyed it. Neglect was. True, but not like that.